We are the Crystal Gems.
We'll always save the day.
Fast as lightning, sharp as a sword. Greetings, YouTube. I'm Lightning Sword, and here we are again, reviewing the greatest cartoon series currently airing. In my last video on the subject, I talked about the characters of Steven Universe, and how their realistic human behaviors, actions, and interactions come together to create wonderful depth and feeling that viewers can relate to, admire, and enjoy. That video could have been longer, mostly because I wanted to discuss all the other things that make this cartoon great. Things that I could never fit all into a single video. The story, the animation, the representation of real-world struggles, the comedy, the drama, the music, and the episodes that weren't the best. There's a lot to go over, so as you might expect, this video will cover the story of Steven Universe. How it gives us the basic plot up front, but gives the overall story one piece at a time. How it immerses us in vivid and creative lore. How every part of the story is a building block for something bigger in the future. How every character contributes their arc to the story. How every character arc intersects with another in some capacity. And how it resolves conflicts in a mature, realistic way that respects its own continuity. Unlike some shows that would be infinitely better otherwise. Like before, I'll be detailing some of the best things about the story of the show, and citing various episodes as my premises. So once again, we're in spoiler territory. So if you haven't sat down and binge-watched the series yet, do so. Once again, my lack of views is a small price to pay if more people enjoy this cartoon. And off we go!
We are the Crystal Gems. We'll always save the day. And if you think we can't, we'll always find a way. That's why the people of this world believe in garnet, amethyst, and pearl, and Steven!
On the surface, Steven Universe is a simple coming-of-age story about a boy named Steven, who grows up learning about life, and tries to balance normal life with inheriting a millennia-old conflict started by his alien warrior mother. I pointed out in my last video how Steven changes over the course of the series, and how effective and impactful the changes are. But underneath, there's a lot more going on. Over 5,000 years ago, an alien race of warrior goddesses called Gems invaded Earth in an attempt to colonize it. Episodes like Serious Steven, Steven the Sword Fighter, Cheeseburger Backpack, Steven and the Stevens, and Coach Steven give us brief early glimpses of this interpretation of Earth, after the invasion that left countless gem artifacts, vehicles, ruins, and creatures all over the planet. Early in the series, each mission the Crystal Gems undertake shows us one of these places, with each instance giving us a small sample of what Earth was like during the Gem Wars, nearly 6 millennia ago. We get much more in-depth looks at gem culture and events leading up to and following the wars in the episodes On the Run, Historical Friction, The Answer, Buddy's Book, and the Zoo arc. These 5 episodes, Steven's Dream, Adventures in Light Distortion, Gem Heist, The Zoo, and That Will Be All, give us our first true look at the homeworld gems and how they operate. Years after the end of the wars, they and their culture thrive, and are still repeatedly making attempts at invading Earth, in episodes like The Return, Jailbreak, Barnmates, Hit the Diamond, Earthlings, Back to the Moon, and Steven's Dream, and the recent Topaz and Aquamarine arc. This makes a lot of sense considering what started the war and how it ended. The buildup of gem culture and its impact on Earth ties in very strongly with another detail-by-detail story arc, the life of the first leader of the Crystal Gems and Steven's mother, Rose Quartz. Rose is a mysterious figure in the show's canon history for a majority of the series. The episodes Laser Light Cannon, Lars and the Cool Kids, and Rose's Scabbard all have the characters speaking of Rose as if to put her on a pedestal. They speak often of her bravery, kindness, wisdom, and empathy, as well as her leadership of the rebellion of gems that led to the war, the beginning of the Crystal Gems. Rose's actions that led to the formation of the Crystal Gems and the beginning of the war are still shrouded in mystery, but what we know for sure is that Rose once served Pink Diamond, one of the Homeworld Diamond leaders. Pink Diamond herself is also a mysterious figure, as the Homeworld Gems seem to grieve and revere her just as the Crystal Gems grieve and revere Rose. Sometime before or during the rebellion, Rose Quartz allegedly shattered her diamond, destroying her gemstone and thus her physical form, essentially murdering her. This adds on to why the homeworld gems are so obsessed with Earth. Losing it to their hated enemy that killed one of their leaders is a hell of a reason to hold a grudge. While told from many different perspectives like Jasper in The Return, Bismuth in her debut episode, and the Ruby Commander, nicknamed Eyeball by Steven, in Back to the Moon, all seem to agree that Rose was a brilliant strategist and powerful warrior. But the biggest reason the Crystal Gems looked up to Rose so much is the main reason the rebellion began in the first place: Rose's intense empathy and fascination with Earth. While her reasons for shattering Pink Diamond may have been her own, it is clear that Rose still possessed a conscience. She was unwilling to shatter any more gems with Bismuth's breaking point weapon, leading to their falling out and to Rose's concealment of the truth behind Bismuth's whereabouts. This also demonstrates Rose's care for her friends. She knew the truth would hurt them and strove to avoid it. The Lion arc, Steven's Lion, Lion 2 the movie, Lion 3 straight to video, and Lion 4 alternate ending, shows that through unknown means, Rose made a deep connection with a magical pink lion. This lion, now a companion and comrade to the Crystal Gems, has a mysterious interdimensional portal in his mane, stored in which is a collection of Rose's possessions, including Rose's sword and a videotape for Steven made before his birth, as well as Bismuth's bubble gem. In Buddy's book, it is shown that Rose has an affinity for lions, so this could explain Lion's presence and abilities, but not enough to completely explain everything. Flashback episodes also show Rose's blossoming romance with a human man, Greg Universe DeMeo. Story for Steven tells the story of how they met. We Need to Talk shows Greg's attempts to flesh out his relationship with Rose. Greg the Babysitter has Greg's brief tenure as a babysitter open up a whole world of human culture to Rose. And 3 Gems and a Baby show the first winter Greg and the Gems spend with Steven in the aftermath of Rose's death. Because most of these episodes were aired before the can of worms was opened on Rose's darkest secrets, viewers as well as the characters are still torn on who or what Rose Quartz truly was. No one exemplifies this better in the late series than Steven himself, in the intense and emotional episode that became one of my instant favorites, Storm in the Room. After returning home from his rescue mission, Steven tries to use Rose's room, which is able to simulate his every command, for the one moment that fans have been anticipating for years: meeting his mother face to face. In what is initially a wonderful moment of bonding between mother and son, the warmth is soured quickly when Steven begins to question Rose's decisions. He even begins to question his very existence, as Steven has been confirmed to be a reincarnation of sorts of Rose herself, perhaps to escape the consequences of Bismuth's disappearance, the war, and Pink Diamond's murder. Both of these arcs intertwine in an impressive way, and are slowly, steadily paced so as to build tension and make viewers long for the next step in the arc. It's a brilliant way to tell a story that adds to the lore of the universe it's in, fleshes out characters, and leaves the viewers begging for more. And more we get in the form of adjunct plot lines that intertwine brilliantly with the main story. I said in my last video that I'd go into more detail with the story of characters like Peridot, Jasper, and Lapis Lazuli, and much of what I said remains true, as I find they're more defined by their character arcs rather than as established characters. The debut of Lapis, aka Best Gem Waifu, in Mirror Gem and Ocean Gem starts a unique and heartfelt character arc that is a direct result of the war between the Crystal Gems and Homeworld. In fact, while Lapis is explaining her backstory in Same Old World, you can see for a brief second that the gem that attacked Lapis and poofed her back into her gem is clearly Bismuth. She also says in the same scene that she was captured and imprisoned in her mirror by Homeworld, so her fate was decided by both sides believing she was an enemy. Lapis' story has a strong recurring theme of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Aside from her running afoul of the gems during the war, she has been captured, imprisoned, or interrogated no less than 7 times. This has had a tremendous effect on her, emotionally and psychologically, and often results in her appearing hard-hearted or even cruel in some instances. But in her debut, she bonded with Steven, and in keeping with his best character traits, Steven brings out the best in Lapis, and over time she lowers her grumpy, ambivalent mask and is a lot more carefree and relaxed around others. Which brings me to another stellar character arc woven into the show's various narratives: Peridot. In Warp Tour, Peridot is presented as a mysterious figure with an unknown agenda. From this point on, more and more of Peridot's motivations are revealed. which includes a subplot involving the cluster shown in episodes Keeping It Together, Nightmare Hospital, and When It Rains, and culminates in the Season 3 opening two-parter, Super Watermelon Island and Gem Drill. Peridot only shows herself as a villain throughout her early tenure on the show because the crystal gems keep interfering with her unconfirmed plans. Her actions even indirectly cause a rift between Pearl and Garnet in the mini-arc that includes Cry for Help, Keystone Motel, and Friendship. But I'll cover that arc later. And her arc blends harmoniously with Lapis's beginning in the Season 1 finale, The Return and Jailbreak, contrasting two very different characters who would soon form an unlikely and humorous friendship. Peridot isn't fond of the crystal gems at first, but she shows she's willing to set aside differences to combat a common threat. Lapis eases slowly into life with the gems, but is very unyielding in her principles, to the point where she was initially unwilling to share a home with her former captor. Understandable. Peridot remains loyal to Yellow Diamond at first, but over time, her loyalty is tested when she bonds with each of the crystal gems in various ways, such as in Back to the Barn when she and Pearl compete in engineering genius, Too Far when Peridot struggles to understand Amethyst's sense of humor, and Log Date 7152 when Peridot observes Garnet and her unique tendency to remain fused. Lapis has no real loyalties to speak of, and even now still has not officially joined the crystal gems. She has not really developed any relationships except with Steven and Peridot, and Greg a little, and rarely interacts with the other crystal gems, and never significantly. And in spite of this, she does a bang-on accurate Amethyst impersonation, and look at that hair draped over her eye. Take me now. Peridot's status as an enemy of her people after talking back to Yellow Diamond pushed her into siding with the crystal gems, while Lapis is full of such guilt that she distances herself from them despite having nowhere else to go. And after her formal joining with the crystal gems, Peridot is more than eager to learn about herself and about Earth, in episodes like Too Short to Ride and Kindergarten Kid, while Lapis struggles to leave her past behind and settle into a quiet life, in episodes like Same Old World and Alone at Sea. And yet somehow these two weirdos end up being good friends, in a believable way. Their experiences have molded them from former antagonists with their own ends, to roommates with not much in common, and yet still quite a lot to talk about. Both of these characters' arcs were shaped in some way by the overarching villain of the mid-series, the homeworld warrior, Jasper. Jasper, another soldier born on Earth just as Amethyst was, fought for the homeworld in the Gem Wars and remembers Rose Quartz from those days, having held an enormous grudge against her for her actions. Now having met the current incarnation of the Crystal Gems, she believes that Steven is simply Rose in a different form, and fights with her in mind. Her strength, tenacity, and lone wolf attitude makes her an intimidating force in the story, especially later on. The Return was Jasper's debut episode, her being Peridot's muscle for her mission in repelling the Crystal Gems. Jasper is only too glad to face them, and brutally destroys Garnet before capturing the gang with the intention of shipping them off to Homeworld. She's shown to have a special animosity towards fusions, as she looks down upon Garnet and her fusion components Ruby and Sapphire, insisting on referring to Garnet with plural pronouns. But I'll get to Jasper's thoughts on fusion later. When Garnet faces off against Jasper again in Jailbreak and wins her revenge, their capture mission is shut down, and Jasper tries desperately to finish off the Crystal Gems by forcibly fusing with Lapis, a move that will damage Lapis throughout the rest of her time on the show, as shown when she takes control of their fusion, Malachite, and imprisons them both under the ocean. This shows that Jasper's lack of understanding for fusion does not stop her from doing what she has to in order to be victorious. When she is later torn apart from the Malachite fusion, she takes her desperation a step further in stalking Lapis and begging her to fuse again. Those details will be covered later as well, but when Lapis refuses, Jasper still persists, returning to confront Steven and Connie on 2 occasions. One of these occasions leads to Amethyst's grudge and self-image issues that carry over from Crack the Whip to Steven vs. Amethyst, and ends coinciding with Jasper's ultimate endgame, revealed in the 2-part ending of Season 3, Beta and Earthlings. Amethyst starts the fight, but still can't defeat her, but after a heart-to-heart with Steven, the 2 shortest crystal gems, that aren't already fused, join forces to beat Jasper at last, leading to a surprising amount of depth for the latter. Again, that'll come later, but in the end, it was Jasper's own desperation to succeed that ended up being her undoing, ending her arc with her lost to the madness of gem corruption. which is itself explored in the mini-arc consisting of Monster Buddies and Monster Reunion, and also establishes a minor character in the form of Steven's corrupted gem friend. But I digress. This concludes an arc full of rage, revenge, clandestine agendas, and a strong lack of understanding for others, making for a complex and impressive villain. Friends and enemies each have arcs that give dimension to their characters, but even supporting characters have a lot to add to the vibrant story of the show. Connie Maheshwish Connie starts as a character that serves as the solid ground beneath Steven's feet, but over time, her experiences in dealing with the craziness in Steven's life lead her to take initiative and train herself to be of aid to him. Her arc includes the episodes Bubble Buddies, An Indirect Kiss, Winter Forecast, Open Book, and Steven's Birthday, which show her growing closer to Steven. Full Disclosure and Sworn to the Sword, which I talked about in the last video, Nightmare Hospital, Gem Hunt, and Crack the Whip, which blend together with other narratives without detracting from them at all, and Alone Together, Beach City Drift, and Mindful Education, which I'll go into more detail about later. Connie's arc concludes so far with The New Crystal Gems, which shows what she, Lapis and Peridot were doing on Earth during the Zoo arc. At first, Connie tries to establish herself as a Steven understudy, but learns just as the gems do that they are not direct replacements of the crystal gems, and can never be. So they strive to give the best of themselves instead of emulating others. It may be a tired old message, but the writing, comedy, and lovable nature of these characters still make it worth watching. With most other shows, the most unlikable side characters usually don't get their own story arcs. But with Steven Universe, a jerk like Lars and a creep like Onion are peeled back to show more under the surface. Lars shows his initial character in full in Lars and the Cool Kids, as well as showing his primary goal, to be liked by the in crowd of Beach City. His worst actions come back to haunt him in episodes like Joking Victim, when his indifference towards Sadie's feelings leads to Steven helping her get revenge on him, which goes about as well as you'd expect. He shows a rare, vulnerable side in Island Adventure when he bonds more with Sadie and shows that he can be more comfortable showing his feelings, and Horror Club, which shows how his need to look good in front of others killed his surprising childhood friendship with Ronaldo. The new Lars sheds even more light on Lars' inner workings and how others perceive him, though not necessarily how he'd react to these situations. And the good Lars even shows his thought processes on wanting to be with the in crowd, but with a degree of trepidation over that which would almost certainly make him accepted. A character that struggles with himself, who he is, and what he wants makes for great potential for development, and shows a path from one side of the arc to the other that isn't always linear, and shouldn't have to be. Characters don't even have to change radically or subtly to be deep and meaningful. Onion, for example, doesn't outwardly change for his entire tenure on the show, but episodes that focus on him show the reasoning behind his behavior. Onion Trade may not be my favorite episode by any stretch, but in it, Onion shows that he gets lonely while his father Yellowtail is out fishing. In Onion Friend, he shows a deeper need for companionship that Steven, true to form, is willing to fulfill to help Amethyst fulfill her own need for the same. And in Onion Gang, he has it, but only during the summer when a group of quirky kids his age come together to play weird games. Onion doesn't change or develop in any of these episodes, at least not explicitly, but we are given a reason behind the various oddball behaviors he exhibits, making him more than just a weirdo. He's a weirdo with feelings and wants. And even though he can't speak English to save his life, he says more in those weird babbling noises than some characters can in words. And even now, in the latest part of the series, characters and their arcs are ever shifting when we think there's nothing else to say about them. Just when we thought Rose might be a murderer, it is revealed that she and her diamond may very well have been set up. Just when we thought Lars was incapable of change, he displays true heroism for his friends. Just when we think the mystery of Lion would remain unsolved, a whole new facet of his story is unlocked. And just when we thought new characters would be out of the cards after the introduction of Aquamarine and Topaz, we're introduced to the Off-Colors, a group of gem misfits who help Steven and Lars escape capture, including Pat Paracha, who is just so damn cute and sweet and adorable, and I love her and I want 5 of her.
What a mystery!
These are character arcs that I desperately wish MLP would take some notes from. No Reason Starlight Picture. So that's it. The story of Steven Universe, a coming-of-age tale that is so much more than that. All the characters around Steven have stories of their own that slowly unfold into a sprawling world of lore. The complicated history of the universe they live in, the culture of the gems, the mysteries around the leaders of Homeworld and their great enemy Rose Quartz, and the individual character arcs that come together to create something epic, mesmerizing, and memorable. Believe it or not, there's still even more to cover. There's the comedy, the drama, the wonderful music, the gorgeous animation, the real-world parallels, and handfuls of not-so-great episodes. So be ready for even more Steven Universe content in the future. So if you'll excuse me, I'll be psyching myself up for Season 5. If you like the review, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, support me on Patreon, and I'll catch you in the next video. This is Lightning Sword, and if every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot dogs. Thanks for watching.
I always thought I might be bad. Now I'm sure that it's true. 'Cause I think you're so good, and I'm nothing like you. Look at you go, I just adore